to the governor's office to be signed.
So through the process, I ask you, we still, on the outside, you folks that are serving on appropriations for sure, in the thick of those type of issues, but even some of us that are serving on the policy, we still have some input. We can talk to you, we can talk to others as this thing's fluid. Would that be a correct statement in your assessment of what we're doing?
Oh yeah, this is just part of the process, and all the legislators will have input, because at some point they'll all be voting on the bill. And it's incumbent upon the chairmen that are working with these appropriations bills to make sure that they're communicating with their colleagues throughout the Senate or throughout the House to make sure that we have sufficient votes to move it through. And that way our colleagues are able to provide the input so that we can craft a bill which is supported by a majority of the members in each respective body.
Maybe we could talk briefly about natural resources, because you and I both share the chairmanships of those committees on the policy side. But one of the things I've appreciated starting out down here is that our leadership, I believe, recognized the importance of that by who they placed in some of those positions. And I know that Senator Walker, you're still involved in natural resources on the appropriations side. Certainly, Representative, you being the chairman of that issue, coming from Northern Michigan, myself coming from Northern Michigan, our leadership, I think, was very strategic in making sure that they had people involved from Northern Michigan on natural resources. And I guess I'd like your comments on that too.
Yeah, no, I think that when I first heard that I was going to be working with you on the Senate side, I was real happy. I thought maybe we could get a full-length phone conversation in during the district, but because you represent the rural UP and I represent rural Northern Michigan, we can never complete a conversation. But I'm joking, of course, but it's been real interesting working through all of the different issues, from invasive species up to what industries like forestry and mining need. And I think that when the Speaker came to me for the chairmanship and said we really need to create, in addition to your committee, a subcommittee focused in on forestry and mining, that was really a red light for me that, okay, we've got leadership that really gets it and really gets what the core industries are in Northern Michigan and the UP, and that these can be economic power centers for us.
Well, on that note too, and to your credit, you also named a Northern Michigan representative to be the chairman of that subcommittee, which I certainly appreciated, with Representative Hookey from the west end of the Upper Peninsula, right in really the heartbeat of the mining industry over there, the potential mining industry that we have. So thanks for that. But it does seem like they've taken it pretty serious. It's one of the first times I've seen something like that to this level, where they have really tapped into Northern Michigan and asking for our input and putting us in some pretty key positions.
Representative Hookey has been a great addition to that, having just come from the area in the western part of the UP. He understands a lot more of the ins and outs of those industries and can share that with the committee and the House as a whole, and it's brought back what that industry may and will need in the future. So his leadership on that's been important.
Good. If we could change the subject just a little bit, I'm kind of curious of what some of the experiences maybe you could share with us, good, bad, indifferent, as far as what you've experienced now that you've come in. I mentioned Senator Walker and I were here earlier. We served for 6 years in the House, but Representative, you're pretty new to this process.
Yeah. Anything in particular, Senator?
Well, the most colorful probably would be the best to share with the audience.
Well, okay. Here's one. I guess I'm going to point to my age a little bit. You know, when you get your chairmanship, you get your policy staffer, and they sit down with you and you meet each other, and they say, okay, what direction do you want to take the committee in? And so my policy staffer Steve said, where would you like to go with this? And I said, well, I'd like to run a couple things off you. How long you been doing this, Steve? He said, well, about 25 years. And I said, well, you've been doing this just about as long as I've been alive. Why don't we work together on where we're going to take this committee and the direction here? So I mean, that's just one occasion. But I think really that this governor, working with the legislature, has a lot of the special interest on their heels, and maybe you guys see that too, having the frame of reference from being in the House. But we're moving at a quick pace. I think it's hard for them to play catch up, and we're making good on a lot of the commitments that we campaigned on.
Senator?
Well, I think this year is different than any other year that I've been down here, and mostly because of the, like Representative Foster said, the speed with which we're moving the budget through. This is going to be one of the first years in the last maybe 10 years that a budget has been done by June. And it's really historic. I want the citizens to know, I think everybody wants the citizens to know that we're doing business different now, that we're making a difference, that we're doing what we were set down here to do. And this budget process is just step one. I think getting rid of the Michigan business tax in the first 5 months that we've been in office, I think, is historic also. Most of us campaigned on that. And so the speed with which we're moving is a lot different. And I think it's good. I think it's good. I think we're showing the citizens that we're down here to get our business done. And I think that we're moving in the right direction. And I'm very optimistic about Michigan. I've been saying whenever I can, I'm very bullish on Michigan. And I'm optimistic for the future.
Both of you come from northern Michigan, as I do. Both of you actually represent a part of the Upper Peninsula, as I do. What would you think are some of the challenges we're faced with? I'd be curious to see what, both perspectives. What do you think are some of the challenges we face for northern Michigan in part, in total, both northern and lower?
At least for the House side, there's a lot more of us in the House side, and so you think your political capital is a little bit less almost, and so what we've tried to do in northern Michigan and the UP, working with Representative Huke and Representative McBroom, is work together cohesively, almost form a northern caucus, so that we have as much political capital as we can. When we're dealing with issues like the school aid budget or like a pension tax piece or something like that. And I think the second most challenging thing is. There's a lot of these pieces of legislation have downstate focus. I think a lot of what Northern Michigan has done has been responsible with the monies and what it's had to do with the school district, localities, municipalities. We don't have the exorbitant salaries and rates and benefit packages, and the communities have worked well together. So getting that focus away from the downstate lens almost and bringing a Northern Michigan aspect to it.
Yeah. Senator?
Yeah. Same thing, letting or educating the rest of the state about the value of Northern Michigan, I think is always a hurdle that we're faced with down here in Lansing. I got to commend my colleagues in the House for banding together and adding, or I should say adding a megaphone to their voice. But Northern Michigan is unique, and we rely on different industries than they do downstate in large part. Agriculture is big, tourism is big, and I'm glad to see that the governor and the rest of the legislature are recognizing that funding Pure Michigan is a high priority, and we've done that. We've taken care of that. I believe Representative Foster, did you pass that bill out of your committee?
Came through the committee.
Right, and appreciate his support on that. That's going to continue, I think, and it only adds dividends to Northern Michigan, but it's good for all of Michigan, and that's how Northern Michigan plays a key role in lifting all of Michigan out of its economic malaise. And along with that, we do have specific industries that have room to grow. I think the energy industry, the mining industry, the agriculture industry, we really have room to grow. And now with a new business climate, business environment, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I would agree. The opportunities that you kind of led right into what I'd like to talk a little bit more about, and that is the opportunities. You've highlighted them, and you talk about Pure Michigan. I too think was a great move. In fact, in the district, when I talk to folks, especially like hotel owners and people that are in the tourism industry, are sharing with me the people that are coming, and they're talking with their customers, and they're literally mentioning Pure Michigan was one of the reasons they took a look and decided to come and visit Michigan. I don't know if you've run into that. I have.
Absolutely. It's largely a public-private partnership funding model. You have local entities and business chambers of commerce all across the state, counties banding together to work through this brand that we call Pure Michigan. And for me, it really is. It's about tourism. It's about that $18 billion economy. But it's also about telling the rest of the Midwest and the rest of the country that we're not just the auto capital of the world. We're a lot more than that. come see Northern Michigan, come enjoy the lakes, come to the UP to hunt and fish, and it's all part of the diversifying our economy and bringing those people to Michigan, but also back to Michigan.
You know, you brought up diversifying our economy. Senator, I don't know if you remember, but Governor Granholm, I thought, had it right when she first ran. You and I were running in that election with her, and she brought that up. She said that Michigan really does need to diversify its economy and not to get rid of the auto industry. We want the auto industry, we want it to be strong, but not to rely on it to the level we have in the past, and that we needed to grow other sectors of this state. I think that leads right into what I really think is the advantage of Northern Michigan right now with the opportunities that I see out there. Do you remember those conversations?
Oh, yeah, I remember it was regular dialogue, and I think most people agreed with her that we needed to focus on, or I should say, the focus would be on other industries, helping Michigan lift itself up. And like I said, I'm a strong believer that energy and mining and some of the timber industries, tourism, these industries all have room to grow. And I think that we have come to a point where we're starting to see the bottom. I don't want to be, my crystal ball isn't real clear on that, but my sense is, in talking with people around the district, that things are better this year than they were last year. And hopefully we're starting to see an uptick in all those industries.
I think you're right. I've been, you know, when you mentioned energy, I see the whole biomass industry really poised to take off here. When you look at that, when we talk about natural resources, I think the opportunities are really vast for us in northern, lower, and the Upper Peninsula, with the attitude and the idea that we have a multi-use type of situation going on with our lands, promoting the hiking, the fishing, the biking, the tourism, you name it, snowmobiling, ORVs, all the above. But we have to put that infrastructure in place, and there does need to be some parameters around it, you know, to preserve the beauty of the Upper Peninsula. But I do think there's plenty of room. Would you agree?
Yeah. Go ahead, Representative.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And to Howard's point, I wasn't back here when former Governor Granholm talked about diversifying the economy, but to do that, you know, the focus to diversify is still there. It's just a different approach on government's not in the position, or it shouldn't be the scope of government to pick which industries, if it's batteries or windmills or energy. Those industries should determine for themselves. All we can do is create that playing field, which a lot of them want to exist in. And I think all of us here at the table come from small business. Making sure that businesses aren't taxed twice, and that Michigan business tax is going to add to job creation.
Sure. I've been talking to some of the folks outside of the state. I don't know, maybe have either one of you run into that opportunity? I've been working with some folks out of Wisconsin, some of the assemblymen over there, and we're finding some similarities there too. And I think that's another opportunity we have in Michigan, is to join in and create some partnerships with some of the states around us, whether it be protecting the Great Lakes, whether it be using our natural resources and those type of things. Any thoughts on that?
You know, I don't have the opportunity that you do working close to a border state, but you know, the Great Lakes is a commonality for all of us.
Sure.
And I am working on some legislation that would help move us towards maybe a Great Lakes compact that would stop invasive species or remediate invasive species, basically control invasive species. And it's in its infancy stage right now, but I think it's a commonality that we should get to with all the Great Lakes states. And you know, the Asian carp is a big threat, and there's others that are out there. And I think it's time for all of our Great Lakes states to band together on invasive species, the same way that we did with water diversions, the compact on the water diversions that you and I supported when we were in the House.
Sure.
And I think that is an area that we can really partner on.
Well, folks, with that, this thing went by pretty fast. I just want to thank all my listeners and welcome to the program that we're trying to start here and inform folks of what's happening up in northern Michigan. And with that, I want to thank my guest, Senator Walker, Representative Frank Foster, and looking forward to meeting with you again. So thank you for joining us.